Alright, new year, new video, and what better way to start it than by exploring my new favorite Sonic character, Soleil, or Lunar, depending on how you look at this character. And yeah, I'm gonna use a little bit of French pronunciation here. I'm sorry that this video is how you learned that I committed the penultimate sin of being French. Our story starts at the Grand Carnival in the town of Sequin, a crazy circus-themed city that honestly looks so fun. I really like the tiered layout and the fact that it's in the ravine with all these fun colors. It almost makes me think of something that I would see in a Wes Anderson film. It actually makes me think just a little bit of the Grand Budapest Hotel, that opening sequence with it, but maybe that's just me. Anyways, it's here where we learn that not only is this where the greatest carnival ever is located, but it's also the location of the 7th Chaos Emerald. And as it turns out, Chaos Emeralds from all over have been vanishing as of late, so Sonic and Tails are here to keep an eye on things and maybe try to apprehend this thief. I really like how Sonic is just bored out of his mind placing olives on his fingers, and meanwhile Tails is like the one being serious here. It's also not long after this that Shadow and Rouge end up showing up, and we learn that Rouge has also lost her Chaos Emerald from right underneath her bed, so she's on the hunt for this thief as well. We also get to see a bit of Sonic and Shadow interacting with each other, and honestly, I always really enjoy seeing the two of them just with their conflicting personalities. Now, from here at the show, the Emerald gets enclosed and we're introduced to the Celestial Troupe, who are essentially this group of circus performers made up entirely of sugar gliders. And the whole thing feels very Cirque du Soleil coded, so keep that in mind because I'm going to loop back to it later on at the end of the video. Now, overall, they do a pretty good job. In fact, they do such a good job that everyone is distracted. So during this time, a rogue appears and steals the emerald from right under everybody's noses. And that's where we're introduced to Lunar, the Master Thief. So from here, Lunar gives chase to both duos, and I've got to say, I'm really into Lunar's design overall. The kind of jester-like attitude and the clothes just look really, really cool. There's also just a ton of really good panels that do an excellent job at showcasing not only this character's personality, but also Lunar's actions and Lunar's costume, which just looks really great. Now, Lunar might have been in trouble if not for the fact that Sonic and Tails have their own little dilemma going on as Rouge and Shadow turn on them, meaning that their attention has to shift away from Lunar for a little bit. One fun thing here is that we see Tails being competent as he defeats Rouge by throwing her bombs back at her. This is something I always enjoy seeing whenever Tails gets the chance of showing he can go off on his own. I do, however, not enjoy the icky goop that's on this popcorn though. Not sure what it is. Initially I thought that it might be butter or something, but we see it later on and it's kind of sticky, which is gross. Makes me think of maybe caramel, but it's almost liquidy. I've never had anything like that on popcorn and I don't ever want to. Anyways, Sonic would manage to catch up to Lunar, and they have a bit of a talk here as Sonic tries to learn Lunar's story. However, Lunar isn't down to share that, and Shadow, who just caught up, is in no mood to hear it. So Sonic tries to defuse the situation, but it ends up escalating to the point where he goes toe-to-toe against Shadow, and we get some really fun fight panels. My personal favorite one is the one where Shadow is swiping at Sonic, and he's drawn with some darker fur on his face, which makes him a little bit more akin to his look in SA2, which is my personal favorite Shadow look. Although, really, I think they were just trying to contrast with the very bright background on this panel. Now, while Shadow does manage to take Sonic down, this ends up giving Lunar time to get away, and so the groups are off to search for Lunar yet again. Now, I'm going to be honest here, IDW Sonic lately has had a little bit of a problem for me, which is that it feels kind of rushed, you know? Things haven't quite had enough time to bake, and unfortunately this comic is a victim of that. So the next little bit feels a little bit lazy for me in terms of storytelling. Essentially, Sonic at some point placed a tracker on Lunar's back that nobody ever noticed, and like I said, it just feels like lazy writing to me. But whatever, it allows Sonic and Tails to track Lunar down to a warehouse, and what's really neat is that when they get here, Lunar is acting like a completely different person altogether. Lunar's no longer this cocky, sort of jester character that Lunar was before, and Lunar actually wants to give up the emerald. So after a little bit of talking, Sonic would learn that this is not in fact Lunar, but instead Salai. And Salai is actually a really big fan of Sonic. Salai has been following Sonic online, and his actions have helped with Salai's life. As it turns out, Salai is actually a part of the Celestial Troupe, and not only is Salai a part of the troupe, but the Celestial Troupe is literally Salai's family. Now, as it turns out, they're super, super hard, and so because of that, Salai is often kind of berated and held to a very high standard. So temporarily, due to Salai's performance, Salai was pulled out of the show, and Salai starts binging Sonic content. Now, not only did Salai enjoy this content, but Salai also studied Sonic's moves and worked on incorporating them into routines that would lead to this really great scene where we get to see Soleil practicing that Sonic Adventure pose with Soleil's hand between the legs. It's honestly a really fun pose, and honestly, I'm not too afraid to admit that yes, I've done the cringy thing of trying to do it in real life as well, and that's a hard pose to pull off. Anyway, Soleil's parents weren't super fond of these Sonic videos as they found Sonic was a bad influence on Soleil, so they continued to pressure Soleil, and during this time, stolen goods just kind of started showing up underneath Soleil's bed, and it would turn out that the towns the Celestial Troop went to correlate with the missing Chaos Emeralds. So it doesn't take a detective to figure this out, you've probably already deduced it, but Lunar is an alter ego created by all the stress placed on Soleil. This devastates Salai, but Sonic is honestly pretty chill about it. He's kind of fine to let it be water under the bridge and work on finding a solution here. But the people who are not chill about this are Salai's family, who are really not thrilled with Salai's actions and end up sort of berating Salai as well as Sonic, which ends up causing Lunar to take over yet again, who then escapes with the Chaos Emerald and some stolen juggling balls. So Sonic gives chase to Lunar, and Sonic manages to talk Lunar down. He explains that Lunar has some great moves, but Lunar's actions aren't fixing anything. Sonic convinces Lunar to let go and essentially let Salai have Salai's body back under the condition that he promises to look after Salai, which honestly is kind of sweet. Like I said, things are a little bit too short here. I would have liked to see a little bit more in this sort of divide in personality here. However, as Salai regains control, the platform that Salai and Sonic are standing on ends up breaking, and Salai can't fly out of it due to the falling debris. But from studying Sonic, Salai manages to do a spin dash, which is really cool. I really like the hat danglies sticking out of the ball. That's always something I really enjoy. We see similar things whenever Tails goes into a spin dash and we see his tail sticking out. And a while back in a video about the metal virus, I talked about how cool it was to see Cream doing a spin dash as well with her ears sticking out the back. It's a fun little thing when they do stuff like that. Now, Salai's parents eventually catch up and they grind down the side of a bridge in a scene that feels a lot like Radical Highway, which always a lot of fun. Now, they mention that they've seen the error of their ways, and to make up for it, they let Salai know that they are here to support their child 110%, and they have a cute poster to demonstrate this. It's cheesy, honestly, yeah, and it feels a little bit rushed, but it's fun. I actually kind of enjoy this. However, all of this ruckus leads to Shadow finding them, and an all-out brawl erupts as Salai's family defends Sonic and Salai. Now, Sonic and Salai end up getting knocked off of the bridge, but thankfully Salai's family, along with Tails, helps them out. Sadly though, Rouge would then swoop in and steal the Chaos Emerald in the end. To complicate things even further, right after this, Eggman would then show up to the party, but honestly, he's got such a cool panel, I can forgive him. I also really like that he chose circus-themed badniks to fit this vibe. Overall, it's just goofy fun. Now, as it turns out, Eggman is actually pretty much fully removed from this story. He's not really here because of Salai or because Sonic is here. He's just strictly here because he happened to be hunting the Chaos Emerald at the same time that all of this was going down. I swear he and Sonic are linked on some kind of cosmic level that just leaves them in this never-ending conflict where one can never get away from the other. So Eggman and his badniks are kind of giving everyone a hard time, but honestly, he's not as huge of a threat as you might imagine. He gets handled pretty well by most of the people here, and a large part of this is due to the fact that Shadow is using Chaos Spears to bash up Eggman, charged by the power of the Chaos Emerald that he presently has. However, at one point, Rouge gets bonked on the head, and after being rescued by Shadow, Eggman manages to swipe the emerald and supercharges Robosuit to 110%, which honestly just seems like a number they really enjoy in this issue because that's the second time we've seen it. Now, from here, Sonic and Shadow end up getting hit, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't totally understand what happened to them. They end up going all black and white, and I don't get it. Maybe I missed something, maybe Eggman's got a weapon I just forgot about, but it's kind of weird because in the next panel, we get this really kind of epic scene of Eggman's giant badnik suit doing this crazy pose, but to Sonic and Shadow, it just looks like a doodle, and I don't get it. I think they're trying to convey the idea that they've just really been hit hard and they don't understand what they're seeing. But yeah, I don't get why they see it as a doodle. Similarly, shortly after this, Salai's family ends up spin dashing through through the badnik, destroying it. And it's a really cool scene, but at the same time, it's like kind of line art and it kind of feels like storyboarding. Like all of the spin dash sugar gliders all look very doodly. Like it's cute, but they look doodly, and I don't know if it's on purpose or if they just look extra doodly because they're black and white. And then meanwhile, there's like red and blue lines going on all over the place that kind of make me think of like the old 3D look. I don't know if this is, again, Sonic and Shadow seeing them look like this, or if this was just an artistic decision that they made. It looks cool. I just don't totally get it personally. Anyways, with that, Eggman is defeated and he runs off, leaving Sonic and Tails to search for the emerald by themselves, as Shadow and Rouge just seemingly have had enough of this. Anyways, after getting a nice goodbye from the Celestial Troop, we're on to what is probably the most interesting thing to come out of these comics, which is a new villain holding a coffin on his back and watching from the shadows with a Chaos Emerald. However, at the time of writing this video, which is December 24th, I have no idea what's going to happen as there's no other issues that presently exist. On top of that, today recording it is December 25th, which means that, yeah, there's nothing out at the moment. Anyways, with that, we've reached the end of Soleil's story and arc. Like I said, it was pretty rushed. This is only 3 issues, and personally, I don't have an issue with a shorter story. However, I want it to be able to fit in a shorter time span, and this really feels like it could have benefited from 1 or 2 extra issues. Personally, I would have liked to see more involvement from Lunar, getting to learn a little bit about that character, maybe seeing more of Lunar's protective side over Soleil, but ultimately, I'm pretty happy with what we got. I really enjoyed both Soleil and Lunar. A part of me is a little bit disappointed because I feel like we might not see Lunar in the future, though who knows, maybe Soleil will be pushed to the point and we'll get to see a little bit more Lunar. Or maybe we won't see the character at all. Fingers crossed that either Soleil or Lunar continue to come back. Really fun characters. And with that, that's kind of it for the story, unfortunately. I hope you enjoyed it, but I want to get into some fun facts and some observations as well, though. Now, I think that it's pretty obvious that Soleil is obviously based on Cirque du Soleil, that being, you know, the big giant circus troupe that you can kind of find all over the place. Now, Cirque du Soleil, giant performance, it's got Soleil in the name. Soleil is a character that's here. Cirque is a circus, you know, the celestial troupe performs for a circus. They also all have suns on their masks, which again links with Soleil, which means sun. Meanwhile, you've got Soleil, who when Soleil was Soleil wore like a sun mask and then became Lunar and wore a moon mask. So I feel like it's really on the nose that, like, you know, it's a sun traveling troupe, and so like it's probably an analog for the sun traveling troupe that exists in the real world. Aside from that, nothing crazy big that stuck out to me inside of this comic that I read about it, but I'm curious as to what your thoughts are about Soleil. Oh, also, sorry, almost forgot about this part. You may have noticed I've said a lot of Soleil and Lunar in this video, and that is because, according to Evan Stanley, who is the current writer on this and the creator of these characters, both Soleil and Lunar don't have pronouns. They just go by their name, which made writing interesting. English doesn't lend itself super well to that. Truthfully, neither does French. Hopefully, you guys weren't too bothered by the constant French pronunciation of Soleil. It just feels wrong to say the name in English. I don't even fully know how I would. Soleil, maybe. But at the same time, you know, I learned recently when I was making my Bunny Rabbit video that people really didn't like when I was pronouncing Antoine as French. So hopefully this didn't rub too many people the wrong way. It's just my first language is French. When I see a French word and I read it in French, my brain just wants to say it in that language. It feels wrong to go in the wrong way, you know, like I'm not going to say Cirque du Soleil. That feels wrong. It's Cirque du Soleil. Anyways, with that, hope you enjoyed the video. At the end of the day, I hope that you're having a really good one in 2026. Super exciting that we finally made it here. And we've got some really fun videos coming up for this year. However, I'm still kind of in the planning stage. So if you have anything that you'd like to suggest, just let me know and I'll try to make it work. All right. Hope you have a good one. End of the day, though, not your boss. Bye-bye.